Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and this is the latest transfer news. Quite last couple of days, you would expect that with most of the people being on holiday and people getting ready for the Copa America, ready for the Euros, you'd expect a few quiet days. But the transfer window is now officially just almost 6 days away. It's starting on Friday, so you're getting closer and closer. And then from that point on, you expect it to be very, very busy despite all the international tournaments going on. So a few updates on SESKO, Onana, Reiss Nelson, also Zubimendi. Let's start with the big one, SESKO. We're expecting to hear a lot from in terms of this deal over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, if it doesn't happen before the Euros. And this is the latest update in terms of Benjamin SESKO. This one coming from T-News and Ticks on Charles Watt's YouTube. No one is going to activate the release clause unless they know he's told them he's going to sign for them. It's highly likely only one club will activate the release clause if he is to leave. We may hear news of what is decided soon, but I wouldn't expect anything complete until July. So this is according to Timmy's and Tix, who's very, very reliable. So listen, he might choose Arsenal right now. Yes, he might choose Arsenal, but in terms of the deal being completed and us hearing that he's officially signed for Arsenal, we might have to wait until July. Now, it depends on the player. If the player wants to complete his signing before or complete his move before the Euros start, then he can do it right now. But he's not made his decision yet. Arsenal have the offer on the table. United, Chelsea, Leipzig all have the offer on the table. Now, I've had a lot of people saying, why don't we just pay it and finish it all, finish it and all that signing today? It's not possible. The offer is already on the table now. It's up to the player to decide whether he wants to join Arsenal or not. Now, ideally, I'd want him to say yes or no right now so that we know, okay, SESKO said no, let's focus on other targets. But I think in terms of being a young player and in terms of, being cheaper compared to the other strikers and all that, I think Arsenal will be willing to wait until July to get the signing done, especially if they already know in the back of their heads that SESKO is going to join Arsenal and maybe doesn't want to say it right now just to, cause disruption and all that. That could be a reason. But in terms of the offer being on the table, the offer is on the table. It's now up to the player to say for the other teams to wait for the player to make his decision. He has an offer from Leipzig to stay, and then he has Arsenal, Chelsea, and Man United to choose from. Now, after he chooses, that's when, if he chooses Arsenal, that's when we can activate the release clause and get it over with. But for now, it's a tough window. Every time you have like a World Cup or Euros and all that, it's always a tough window to get deals done, especially if the player is involved in the Euros. It's going to be a tough one. So we have to be very patient in terms of the SESKO deal. Listen, in terms of transfers, we usually get transfers done very quickly these days. We get like 3-4 signings before even the preseason these days, which is great to usually do our business very, very quickly. But the Euros is going to be complicated. We have to be even more patient. It's very hard to get deals done right now. That's why there's not too many teams who have signed anyone in terms of the Premier League. Chelsea signed a player for free. If it's a free player or, a player without a team and without a contract anywhere, you can get them for free. But in terms of signing players from different teams, it's going to be very hard. You'll have to be very patient in terms of completing the deals because of the Euros going on and the player, especially if the player does not want to lose focus in terms of the Euros and the international tournament, then it becomes a problem. So we have to be patient. Now, Arsenal could decide, listen, we don't have time to wait. You're going to go to the next targets. There's other targets like Osimhen, but you already know that is going to be a lot of money. Gyökeres is also a lot of money and he's injured at the moment anyway. Isaac is way too much money, 180 million. There's not too many strikers who are available at the moment. Players like Watkins you'll never get. Players like Isaac you'll never get. So you'll have to be really patient to, get an obscure name, like, a name that not too many people want. Maybe you go to a Portugal, to, fifth team, maybe to a Braga or something, or you go and get Girona striker, or you go to like an Osasuna and get a striker. You'll have to be very patient in terms of getting the big names who are involved in at the Euros. So that's the latest on SESKO. According to Team News and Ticks, we'll have to be very, very patient. But as Fabrizio Romano himself reported a couple of days ago, there's still a new contract proposal from Leipzig on the table. Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea have all approached SESKO since March and April, and Benjamin SESKO at the top, taking some more days to decide on his future. So it's not about Arsenal being slow or whatever. No, the offer is on the table. It's up to SESKO to decide. The Declan Rice one took a bit like a month to get it done because of the 70, 80, 90 million, then Man City wanting him, then obviously West Ham being very tough in terms of selling him. And took a bit of time, but he still managed to get it done before preseason. Preseason is starting on, I think, 21st or something of July, around there, in terms of preseason training, maybe a couple of weeks before. So there's still time, but in terms of in terms of the release clause, you have to get it done before the Euros end, because after the Euros end, this money is going to go up. So unless they sign him, they agree with Leipzig and they pay the release clause. And then in terms of the medical and everything else, he comes and does it later. That could be an option as well. Now, what about Onana? What about Amadou Onana? I've already discussed him a lot of times. Some Arsenal fans think he's not good enough for the team. Some think he'd fit perfectly. Personally, I've made myself clear in terms of Onana. If it is Partey out, Onana in, and that's the only midfield business, I'd not be too happy with that. If Partey stays and then Onana joins in, I'd be like, yeah, that's good. If Partey leaves and then Onana joins and another midfielder joins as well, I'll be happy with that. But personally, for me, I have a different option in midfield. But this is the latest on Amadou Onana. This one is coming from John Cross of the Mirror. One midfielder definitely not joining is Everton's Amadou Onana, who was also linked in January, but that caused raised eyebrows back then and is still not on the radar now because he's not the type of midfielder they want. So now, in terms of Onana, we're getting a lot of conflicting reports, different opinions from different people, but we've always said, even the comments have always said Onana doesn't really fit into our system and all that. Now, if Partey is playing and Onana is coming on the last 20 minutes, to cover and all that, I'll be like, you know what, this is good. Absolutely no problem. Onana can do the job. He can bully the rest of the players and all that. If, if you're leading 2-0 and you just need to stay solid in midfield and you want to have both Partey and Onana in midfield, that's absolutely perfect as well. Absolutely no problem. But in terms of if Onana is the one starting the game in the number 6 role, also it's not just about bullying and stuff. That number 6 role, you have to know how to keep your position. You have to know how to pick up the ball from the defenders and the goalkeeper and control. And, don't put your defenders under pressure, knowing to pick out the pass. You'll have to know how to turn like Partey does and, distribute the ball forward. You'll have to, the intelligence has to be there. I think for me, that's the most important position on the pitch. And in terms of the control and, passing, can we give you the ball and you can help us, keep the ball for at least a couple of minutes? Can you win a couple of fouls for us and take a bit of pressure from us? I don't know if Onana can do that, but in terms of if you have someone else playing with him and you just need 2 bullies in midfield and you tell Onana to carry the ball forward, he can do that for you. He can definitely do that for you, strength-wise and all that. And Premier League experience, he does have it. His Premier League, he would bring Premier League experience, but that's pretty much it. I don't think in the other stuff he definitely fits us at all, especially if it's just like an out-and-out replacement for Partey. I don't think that would work. If it's coming to join Partey, I'm absolutely fine with that. But as John Cross of the Mirror said, Arsenal don't feel like he's the type of midfielder that we need. So again, that's very conflicting from what we had a couple of weeks ago, with people saying that Arsenal are still interested in Amadou Onana. Now, in terms of, you'll hear a couple of these days, we hear a couple of transfer rumors that are very accurate. Like Declan Rice, he had it very early. Jesus, he had it very early. Zinchenko, he had it very early. Same with Timber, and then the players you're approaching. I expect this time to be a couple of true ones. The SESKO one is definitely a true one. I'd say Osimhen wanting to join us is probably true, but there's maybe a couple of ones that you're not really sure. Nana, do we really want him? It's just the journalists and the media bringing his name up, and a couple of players being linked with moves away could be true, a couple maybe not true. So it's a tough one. We have to be very patient in terms of this transfer window. I still feel you're going to get at least 2 signings before preseason and maybe 1 during preseason, and then I don't know if you're going to get a 4th signing. We have to wait and see. Maybe that could be before the season starts in August. But Onana doesn't look like it's a midfielder that you want. Are you guys happy with that news? Did you really want Onana, or are you not worried about Onana joining us, so you're not really bothered? You didn't want him anyway. For me, my thoughts are clear on him. If Partey's staying, you can bring him if he's cheaper. But if Partey's leaving and then you're bringing Onana as the only midfield replacement, I'm not really happy with that. Another midfielder who's been linked with Arsenal is Martín Zubimendi, but also for him, it looks like he might not join Arsenal. He might not want to come to the Premier League. But according to CFC Bayern on Zubimendi, Arsenal are backing away from signing him. Although they were actually prepared to pay the 60 million euro release clause in the end, they didn't want Zubimendi for playing reasons. I'd say it's also Spanish, and they said to have been very close. That's another weird one, because you are told that Zubimendi doesn't want to play in the Premier League anyway. He loves Arteta and all that. Arteta loves him, and he'd like to play for us and all that, but he doesn't like the Premier League anyway, so he doesn't really want to come to the Premier League. He's one of those players who really loves staying in Spain and playing for Sociedad and staying there. Maybe if he moves, goes to like a Real Madrid or to Barcelona, to Atletico Madrid or something like that. But in terms of the Premier League, not really. But now we are being told that in terms of playing reasons, we didn't want Zubimendi, or we don't want Zubimendi anymore because of playing reasons. I wonder what the playing reasons are. Playing reasons are because in terms of controlling the game and passing in the middle and all that, keeping possession, he can do that job for you. But again, we said I don't know which kind of midfielder or striker we are looking for. Are we looking for a midfielder who's going to be a bully like Onana, carry the ball from midfield and just bully other midfielders, but in terms of technical wise and passing and dribbling is not the best? Are we looking for someone who's going to control the midfield completely in Zubimendi and players like that? Someone who's just going to keep possession, pass it around, distribute the ball, and always be available? Or are we looking for a midfielder who has both? Are we looking for an expensive midfielder? Personally, for me, midfield is a priority because if Partey gets injured again, I don't want us to be in problems. For me, the midfielder that I really want is Douglas Luiz. That would be my number one option. His price and all that. And the latest on Douglas Luiz was this from Morik92. Arsenal have a strong interest in Douglas Luiz, whose contract expires in 2026. Aston Villa need to sell, and we are looking at 50 million euros. So for me, I would actually get Douglas Luiz, absolutely no problem. That's the midfield I would want. If everyone was the same price and all that, I'd probably choose Bruno Guimaraes, but Bruno Guimaraes would be 2 times that price we've seen for Douglas Luiz. So for me, I'd go for Douglas Luiz and pay 50 million euros. That's around 40 million pounds. Yes, that is what I'd do. Players like Joao Neves are very expensive. They're looking at 220 million euros. It's not Arsenal who's going to struggle to sign players. All the other teams will struggle to sign players. So if Man still want like a Bruno Guimaraes, they're going to be told 120 million. Chelsea will struggle to sign players. Liverpool will struggle to sign players. I don't think it's going to be as quick as, we're just signing players. Let's get the players. Let's move on. No, especially the Euros and the Copa America is going to make it even more difficult. And the FFP and people not wanting to be deducted points and all that is going to... it's going to be seen in the transfer window. Maybe this time people don't make moves as quickly, or maybe this time people are asking for a lot of money for their players and all that. Speaking of asking for a lot of money for your players, how much are we asking for Reiss Nelson, and what's the latest on him? So according to reports from Sports Pete, Arsenal are open to offers for Reiss Nelson as they look to generate funds for potential new signings this summer. Sources have told Football Insider. Any big offers will be considered, and they could accept 25 million for the player. So 25 million, I would take it. I would take it. I don't think that Reiss Nelson will become that player that we want him to become in terms of starting and making a big impact like that. Now, around 3-4 years ago, people expected him to be that player. I think he was coming back from Germany. I don't remember the team. He played in Germany, I usually confuse with Smith Rowe. I think one played for Hoffenheim and the other one I don't even remember, one of them. And then he went to Feyenoord a couple of seasons ago and almost won the Europa League. I think it was the Europa League or the conference, one of them. They reached the final and lost to... I think it was the conference. They lost to Roma in the final. I think that's the one. And people say they played really well in Feyenoord. They played really well in Germany and thought he was going to have some breakthrough in those 2 seasons. He came. He had a very good end to the season in 2022, 2023. He got rewarded. He stayed the next season, but the next season he didn't really play. He was injured again. The previous season he was also injured in pre-season. Maybe you wouldn't even have kept him after that injury. Maybe if he didn't have that injury, you didn't have kept him and stuff. So for me personally, I feel like there's a couple of players who've overstayed their stay, players like Nketiah and Nelson. For me, when they were linked with moves away in 2021, I actually wanted them to move on. I wanted Nketiah to be sold to Wolves and I wanted Nelson to move on, but they've stayed for another 3 years. But I don't see where it progresses from here. Arsenal are now looking for, more international players who are going to take us to 94, 95 points. I don't think you turn back to Nelson or Eddie at all. We already have Trossard playing there, Martinelli playing there, Saka playing there. We're talking about getting another winger. If Jesus stays, we're talking about him playing on the wing. If SESKO gets signed, you're also talking about him playing on the wing. We don't know where Smith Rowe is going to play. I don't think these players are going to stay, unfortunately. I did a video like a month ago saying end of Haaland. It could be, most of these players could be leaving, and then we could see players like Nwaneri progressing into the team. But for Reiss Nelson, 25 million, to be honest, I would take it. Now, the other question is, are we going to get that 25 million or not? But we are certainly going to see a lot of moves out for this summer. Cedric and Elneny have already moved on, and 20 plus players have already been moved on in terms of released, but we don't know the features of Ramsdale, Nelson, Nketiah, Smith Rowe, Zinchenko, Jesus, and many others players, even Partey. We don't know whether they're going to stay or leave. it's a tough one. Last summer we knew Xhaka was leaving, we knew Reiss was coming in, but this time around I think it's a more difficult one. You're not 100% sure what's going to happen to who. But let me know what you make about all that we've spoken about. Are you happy that you're no longer linked with Onana? Could it be something that comes back in terms of the transfer window the more it goes on? Benjamin SESKO, are you going to be patient with him, or do you think we need to move on to other targets? Zubimendi as well, as what do you make of him, and also Reiss Nelson? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on